His fingers traced my jaw like he was memorizing the shape of his own damnation. And I knew standing there in my ex-boyfriend's father's office, feeling his breath on my lips, that I was about to let him ruin me. And I was going to beg him to do it. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me tell you how a girl from the suburbs ended up sleeping with a 57-year-old ex-mafia boss who just happened to be my professor. And my ex's father. And the man who took my virginity on the night I thought I'd give it to someone else. Before I tell you this whole insane story, where are you watching this from right now? Drop your city or country in the comments. I need to know I'm not alone in this. I was 23 years old, a virgin, and completely in love with the wrong man. His name was Marco Duca, and he was everything I thought I wanted: wealthy, charming, the kind of guy who made other girls jealous when he chose you. We'd been dating for 8 months, and I'd decided that night at his family's estate party I was finally ready to give him that part of myself I'd been saving. God, I was so stupid. The estate was in the hills outside Milan, one of those old money properties that makes you feel poor just walking through the gates. Marble everywhere. Chandeliers that probably cost more than my parents' house. People in designer clothes holding champagne glasses like they were born doing it. I didn't belong there, and I knew it. But Marco had insisted I come, said it was important I meet more of his family. I wore a white dress. Because of course I did. Like I was advertising my innocence to a room full of people who'd lost theirs before they could legally drink. The party was loud, too many people, too much perfume, too much everything. I spent an hour making small talk with people who looked through me like I was furniture. Marco kept disappearing, saying he had to network or catch up with cousins. I smiled and nodded and felt smaller with every minute that passed. Around 11, I decided I was done waiting. I'd been waiting 8 months. I'd been waiting my whole life, really, for the right person, the right moment, the right feeling. And I'd convinced myself Marco was all three. I went looking for him. The estate was massive, a maze of hallways and rooms that all looked the same. I climbed the main staircase to the second floor, where the guest bedrooms were. I figured he'd gone to lie down, maybe escape the noise. I'd surprise him. Tell him I was ready. That tonight could be the night. I walked down the hallway, checking doors. Most were locked, but one, the third door on the left, was slightly open. Light spilled into the hallway. I heard sound, breathing, movement. My hand touched the door. I pushed it open, and my entire world shattered. Marco was on the bed, naked. My sister Julia was beneath him, her legs wrapped around his waist, her head thrown back, making sounds I'd never heard her make. Making sounds I'd imagined I'd make with him someday. They didn't notice me. Not at first. They were too caught up in each other, too lost in something I'd never been part of. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't look away. Then Julia opened her eyes, saw me standing in the doorway, and she smiled. Not apologetic, not guilty. She smiled. Marco turned his head, followed her gaze, and saw me. He didn't stop moving, just froze for a second, then pulled out of her with this annoyed expression like I'd interrupted something important, and he was pissed about the inconvenience. "Bella," he said, not even bothering to cover himself. "This isn't." I ran. Didn't wait for the excuse. Didn't wait for the explanation. I just ran. Down the hallway, down the stairs, through rooms full of strangers who didn't notice a girl in a white dress falling apart at the seams. I could hear him behind me, "Bella, wait," but I didn't stop. Couldn't stop. I got lost in the estate. Every hallway looked the same. Every door led to another corridor, another dead end. My chest felt like it was caving in. My vision was blurred. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't exist. I needed out. Out of this house, out of this life, out of my own skin. I grabbed a door handle, any door, and pulled. The room was dark except for a lamp by the window. Quiet. Separate from the chaos of the party, like it existed in a different dimension. I stumbled inside and slammed the door behind me, pressing my back against it, sliding down to the floor. I buried my face in my hands and tried not to scream. That's when I heard water running. A door opening. I looked up. A man stood in the doorway of an adjoining bathroom, steam curling around him, a towel slung low around his hips. Water droplets traced paths down his chest, his shoulders, his arms. Dark hair going silver at the temples. Eyes the color of smoke. A body that said he knew exactly how to use violence and had chosen for now not to. He wasn't young. 50-something, maybe older. But age had made him sharper, not softer. There were scars on his torso-old bullet wounds, knife marks. The kind of scars that told stories he probably shouldn't have survived. We stared at each other. I waited for him to yell. To demand I leave. To call security. Instead, he said, "You're safe here." His voice was low, controlled, completely calm. Like finding a sobbing stranger in his private study was just another Tuesday. I tried to stand. My legs didn't work. I slid back down the door, shaking so hard my teeth chattered. He disappeared into the bathroom and came back wearing dark slacks and a white shirt, unbuttoned. He crossed the room, poured something amber into a crystal glass, and held it out to me. "Whiskey," he said. "You don't have to drink it, but hold it. The weight helps." I took the glass. He was right, the solid weight of it in my hands gave me something to focus on besides the screaming in my head. He sat down across from me, not too close. Gave me space. Just watched me with those smoke-gray eyes, like he could see every broken piece inside me, and wasn't judging a single one. "What's your name?" he asked. "Isabella," I whispered. "Isabella." He said it like he was testing the shape of it. "I'm Lorenzo." I nodded. Didn't trust my voice. "You don't have to tell me what happened," he said quietly. "But you're not leaving until you've stopped shaking." I looked at him, really looked at him. There was something in his face, in the way he held himself. Control. Power. But also sadness. Like he knew exactly what it felt like to have your world destroyed, and was giving me the space to fall apart without making me explain why. "My boyfriend," I finally said. "Ex-boyfriend. I found him, with my sister." Lorenzo's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. Understanding. Maybe even recognition. "I'm sorry," he said. And he meant it. We sat in silence. He didn't try to fix, didn't offer meaningless platitudes. Just let me exist in the wreckage without making me pretend I was okay. Eventually, my breathing slowed. The shaking stopped. I set the glass down. I hadn't taken a single sip. "Thank you," I said. "For what?" "For not asking questions. For just letting me be a disaster in your space." A ghost of a smile touched his mouth. "We're all disasters. Some of us are just better at hiding it." He stood, offered me his hand. I took it. His grip was warm, solid, steady. "Come on," he said. "I'll show you to a guest room. You can sleep here tonight. Leave in the morning when you're ready." "I don't even know who you are," I said. "No," he agreed. "You don't, but you're not leaving until you've stopped looking like you're about to shatter. So, guest room, sleep. Tomorrow will still be hell, but you'll be stronger for it." I followed him down a different hallway, quieter, away from the party. He opened a door to a bedroom that was bigger than my entire apartment. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Milan. A bed that looked like a cloud. "Lock the door," he said. "No one will bother you here. Why are you being kind to me?" I asked. He paused in the doorway, looked back at me with those devastating eyes. "Because someone should be." Then he left. And I locked the door. And I climbed into that enormous bed, still wearing my white dress. And I cried until I had nothing left. I woke up to sunlight and silence. For a moment I forgot where I was. Then it all came crashing back. Marco, Julia, the running, the stranger with the sad eyes who'd let me fall apart in his study. I looked around the room. It was even more beautiful in daylight. Everything was cream and gold and soft. The kind of luxury I'd only seen in magazines. Egyptian cotton sheets. a view of the city that made Milan look like a painting. I found my phone on the nightstand, 15 missed calls from Marco, 37 texts, a dozen from Julia. I turned it off without reading any of them. There was a knock on the door.
Isabella? Lorenzo's voice.
I made coffee, if you want. I opened the door. He was dressed casually, dark jeans, a gray sweater, but he still looked like he could run a boardroom or a battlefield with equal ease. His hair was damp. He smelled like cedar and something darker I couldn't name. "How do you feel?" he asked. "Like my life ended last night. Then you're right on schedule." He gestured down the hallway. "Come on, coffee helps. Won't fix anything, but it helps." I followed him to a kitchen that was all marble and stainless steel. He made espresso like he'd been doing it his entire life, precise, efficient, perfect. Handed me a tiny cup that was somehow exactly what I needed. "Do you want to talk about it?" he asked. "No." "Good. Talking is overrated." We stood in his kitchen drinking coffee in silence. It should have been awkward. It wasn't. "I should go home," I finally said. "Do you want to?" I thought about my apartment. About my phone lighting up with messages I didn't want to read. About eventually having to face my family, my friends, everyone who'd want to know what happened and why I looked like a ghost. "No," I admitted. "Then stay." He said it simply, like it was the most obvious solution in the world. "Just for today. No questions, no expectations. Just stay." I should have said no. Should have thanked him and left and dealt with my life like an adult. Instead, I said, "Okay. If you've ever had your heart completely shattered by someone you trusted, if you know what it feels like when your whole world turns into a lie, hit that like button. I need to know you get this." We spent the day in his study. He had work to do, papers to grade, emails to answer, and he just let me exist in his space. Gave me a book from his shelf, made sure I had water, didn't try to make me talk. I curled up in a leather chair by the window and pretended to read. Mostly I just watched him work. The way he frowned at his computer. The way he made notes in the margins of papers with precise, controlled handwriting. The way he'd glance at me every so often, just checking I was still okay. There was something about him. A stillness. Like he'd seen the worst the world could offer, and had come out the other side harder but not cruel. Dangerous but not destructive. I felt safe with him, which was insane because I didn't know him. Didn't know anything about him except that he had a beautiful home, and knew how to make espresso, and had scars that suggested violence. Around sunset he stood. "You hungry?" I realized I was. Starving, actually. He cooked. Actually cooked pasta from scratch, sauce that smelled like heaven. We ate at his kitchen island, and I asked him about the books in his study, and he asked me what I was studying. And somehow we had an entire conversation without once mentioning what had brought me here. "Thank you," I said again. "For this, for letting me hide." "You're not hiding," he said. "You're recovering. There's a difference." I looked at him across the kitchen island. This stranger who'd shown me more kindness in 12 hours than Marco had in 8 months. "Why are you being so nice to me?" I asked again. He set down his fork. Studied me for a long moment. "Because I know what it's like," he finally said. "To have your life destroyed by someone else's choices. To need a place to exist without having to explain yourself. And because..." He paused. "Because you deserve kindness, Isabella. You might not believe that right now. But you do." Something in my chest cracked open. Not breaking. Opening. Like maybe I could breathe again someday. Monday morning came too fast. Lorenzo drove me home at dawn. I couldn't avoid real life forever. My apartment looked smaller than I remembered. Emptier. I showered, changed, packed my bag for classes, and tried to pretend I was a person who had her life together. My phone was still off. I wasn't ready for that particular nightmare yet. I walked to campus through Milano's streets as the city woke up. My first class was art history, Renaissance, and Baroque. I'd signed up because I loved Caravaggio, loved the way he used light and shadow to tell stories about humanity's darkness and redemption. The lecture hall was already half full when I arrived. I slid into my usual seat near the middle, pulled out my notebook, and tried to focus on anything except the loop of Marco and Julia playing in my head. The professor's back was to the class. He was writing on the board something about chiaroscuro and the nature of visibility.
His handwriting looked familiar.
Then he turned around. Every molecule in my body stopped moving.
It was him, Lorenzo.
The man from the study. The stranger who'd given me kindness when I needed it most. The man whose home I'd just spent 36 hours in.
He was my professor.
Our eyes met across the lecture hall. I watched recognition hit him like a physical blow. His body went still, his hand tightening on the chalk he was holding. For 3 full seconds, neither of us moved. Then he cleared his throat, set down the chalk, and said in that low, controlled voice, "Good morning, I'm Professor Duca. Welcome to Renaissance art and the politics of power." Duca. Duca.
Oh my God.
The name slammed into me like a train.
Marco's last name.
This was Marco's father. The man who'd held me while I cried. Who'd made me coffee and pasta and given me a place to hide. I was sitting in my ex-boyfriend's father's class. The universe wasn't just cruel. It was theatrical about it. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't focus. Lorenzo Professor Duca was lecturing about Caravaggio's Calling of St. Matthew, about how the painting depicted a moment of recognition, of seeing and being seen for the first time. His voice was steady, professional, completely controlled. But I caught him glancing at me. Quick, barely noticeable, like he couldn't help himself.
The hour lasted a lifetime.
When he finally dismissed the class, everyone started packing up.
I didn't move. Couldn't move.
"Miss Moretti," he said, his voice carrying across the hall. "Could you stay behind for a moment?" Heads turned.
Curious glances.
I felt my face flush. The room emptied. The door closed. We were alone. He stood behind his desk, hands braced on the wood, jaw tight. "I didn't know," he said quietly. "I swear to God, Isabella, I didn't know you were enrolled here, in my class. I didn't know you were a professor," I said.
My voice sounded distant. "I didn't even know your last name. I should have asked. I should have too." Silence. Heavy. Loaded. Whose party was I at?
I asked, even though I already knew.
Needed to hear him say it. His jaw clenched. My son's.
The words hung between us like a grenade. "So, let me get this straight," I said slowly. "The worst night of my life happened at the home of the man who gave me the best morning after. And the man who made me feel seen for the first time is my cheating ex-boyfriend's father." He didn't deny it. Just looked at me with those smoke-gray eyes full of something I couldn't name. "If you want to switch seminars," he said carefully, "I'll arrange it. No questions asked, no penalties to your grade. And if I don't want to..." His hands tightened on the desk. "Then we pretend Saturday never happened. I'm your professor, you're my student, nothing else. We maintain appropriate boundaries, and no one ever knows. What if I can't pretend?" The air in the room shifted.
Charged.
"Then we're both in trouble," he said quietly. I stood, walked to his desk, looked up at him. "I don't want to switch classes. Isabella, I want to stay." He closed his eyes, took a slow breath. When he opened them again, there was something raw in his expression. Something that looked like the beginning of a disaster neither of us knew how to stop. "Okay," he said. "Then stay."
Okay. Pause. Pause.
If you think this story is already insane, it gets so much worse and so much better. Subscribe right now because you need to see where this goes. I'm not even halfway through. What time is it where you are right now? Are you watching this alone? Late at night? Tell me in the comments. I want to know who's here with me in this. Weeks passed.
We kept our promise.
In class, he was Professor Duca, brilliant, demanding, completely professional. He lectured on Caravaggio and Artemisia Gentileschi and the ways Renaissance artists used power and vulnerability in their work. I took notes and participated in discussions and turned in papers that he graded with the same rigor he applied to everyone else. But there were moments. his eyes finding mine across the lecture hall when he talked about the intimacy of seeing and being seen, the way his hand would brush mine when he handed back papers, the silence that fell when I'd stay after class to ask a question about the reading, and we'd both realize we were alone again. The awareness between us was constant. Electric. Dangerous. I started noticing things about him. The way he rolled up his sleeves when he lectured, revealing those scars on his forearms. The way his voice deepened when he talked about art he loved. The way he'd catch himself staring at me and force his attention back to his notes. I couldn't stop thinking about him. About the way he'd been kind when I was broken. About his hands, his voice, the controlled power and how he moved. About the fact that he was completely, devastatingly wrong for me in every possible way. He was my professor. My ex's father. 3 or 4 years older than me. And based on the whispers I'd started hearing around campus, he had a past that made Marco's cheating look like a minor inconvenience. "Did you hear about Professor Duca?" A girl named Sophia said one day in the library. "He used to run organized crime in Milan, like actually run it. The Duca family was the family." My stomach dropped. "What happened?" I asked, trying to sound casual. "His wife was murdered, some rival family thing. After that he just left, built that foundation for ex-criminals. Started teaching, but people say he's still dangerous, that he's got connections." I should have been scared. Should have run. Instead, I went to the library and searched for him. Found articles from 15 years ago. Lorenzo Duca, alleged crime boss, investigated for everything from racketeering to murder. Never convicted. Then his wife, Maria, shot dead outside their home. And then, nothing. He'd disappeared from the criminal world entirely. Until he resurfaced as a professor with a PhD in art history and a foundation helping people leave organized crime. He'd rebuilt his entire life. Reinvented himself. Chosen something different. I understood that. The need to become someone new after your old self was destroyed. Office hours became my favorite part of the week. I'd show up with questions about the reading, about thesis ideas, about the intersection of violence and beauty in Baroque art. We'd talk for an hour, sometimes longer, and the conversation would start academic and drift into something else entirely. "You see things other students don't," he said one afternoon, leaning back in his chair. "You understand that art isn't just about beauty, it's about power, control, the ways we reveal ourselves when we think no one's watching. Is that what you see in Caravaggio?" I asked. "Revelation? I see a man who understood darkness," he said quietly. "Who knew that the most honest art comes from the places we're afraid to look?" He was looking at me when he said it. Not at his notes. "At me. What are you afraid to look at?" I asked. The question hung between us. Too personal. Too honest. "You," he said finally. "I'm afraid to look at you, Isabella, because every time I do, I forget why I shouldn't." My heart stopped. "Maybe you shouldn't forget," I whispered. His jaw clenched. "You don't know what you're asking for. Then tell me." He stood, walked to the window, put distance between us like he didn't trust himself not to close it. "I've done things," he said, his back to me. "Terrible things. I've hurt people, destroyed lives, and even though I've spent 15 years trying to be someone different, I can't erase that. It's in my blood, in my bones, and I will not." His voice cracked. "I will not let that darkness touch you." I stood, walked to him, stood close enough to feel his heat. "What if I'm not afraid of your darkness?" I said softly. "What if I see it and choose you anyway?" He turned, looked down at me, and for the first time I saw him vulnerable. Completely, devastatingly vulnerable. "You're 23 years old," he said. "You have your entire life ahead of you. You could have anyone. Why would you choose someone like me? Because you saw me when I was broken and didn't try to fix me. Because you're the first person who's ever made me feel like I don't have to apologize for existing. Because when I'm with you, I'm not the girl who wasn't good enough for Marco. I'm just..." His hand came up, hesitated, then cupped my face with a gentleness that made my chest ache. "This can't happen," he whispered. "I'm your professor. You're my student. There are rules, then I'll drop the class." "Isabella, I will drop the class," I said firmly. "I will switch to another section, because whatever this is between us, it matters more than a seminar. You matter more. Don't throw away your education for what? For you? You think this is just attraction? You think I don't know the difference between wanting something and needing it?" I stepped closer. "I need this. I need you. And if you're too scared to admit you feel the same, then say it. But don't lie to me and pretend this is one-sided." He stared at me, breathing hard, control fracturing. Then he dropped his hand and stepped back. "Go to class, Isabella. We'll talk about this when you've had time to think clearly." I grabbed my bag, headed for the door. Stopped with my hand on the handle. "I am thinking clearly," I said without turning around. "For the first time in my life, I'm thinking clearly, and I know what I want." I left before he could respond. I didn't go to his office the next week, or the week after that. I needed him to come to me, to stop hiding behind professional ethics and admit he wanted this as much as I did.
But 3 weeks later, I broke. It was late, almost 9.
I was in the library researching for my thesis when my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number.
"Come to my office, please."
I knew who it was. Knew I should ignore it. Knew that going to him at night, alone, was crossing every line we'd been pretending still existed. I went anyway. His office was in the old humanities building, 3rd floor, isolated from the rest of campus. The hallway was empty when I arrived. His door was open, light spilling into the corridor. I knocked. "Come in," he said.
"And close the door."
I stepped inside. He was standing by the window, hands in his pockets, shoulders tense. "You asked me to come," I said.
I did. Why?"
He turned, looked at me with eyes that said he'd been fighting himself for weeks and was finally, catastrophically, losing. "Because I can't do this anymore," he said quietly. "Can't stand in front of that lecture hall and pretend you're just another student. Can't grade your papers without remembering the way you looked in my kitchen. Can't exist in the same space as you without wanting." He stopped,
Jaw clenched.
"Without wanting what?"
I pressed.
"You," he said roughly. "I can't exist near you without wanting you. And I've tried. God, Isabella.
I've tried. I've reminded myself of every
rule it breaks. Every way it could destroy us both. And none of it matters. None of it is stronger than this."
I set my bag down,
locked the door. His eyes tracked the movement. "What are you doing?" "What I should have done weeks ago." I crossed the room, stood in front of him, looked up into that devastating face.
"I'm not her," I said steadily.
"I'm not Maria. I'm not fragile. I'm not some innocent thing that needs protecting from you. I've already survived betrayal and heartbreak, and I'm still standing. I'm stronger than you think. I know you are," he said softly. "That's what terrifies me. You're strong enough to survive me, and I don't know if I'm strong enough to survive losing you." "Then don't lose me," I whispered. "Choose me, right here, right now. Stop fighting this and choose me." His control shattered. He moved so fast I barely saw it. 1 second he was across the room. The next his hands were in my hair, tilting my face up, his mouth hovering an inch from mine. "Last chance to run, Isabella," he said, his voice wrecked. "Because once this happens, I won't be able to let you go." I rose on my toes.
"Close the diff. Then don't."
The kiss was not gentle. It was weeks of restraint breaking, months of loneliness ending. A lifetime of feeling invisible erased by the way he pulled me against him like I was the only solid thing in his universe. His mouth was demanding, consuming, claiming. My hands fisted in his shirt, pulling him closer, kneading him deeper. He walked me backward until my spine hit his desk. His hands were everywhere, my waist, my hips, sliding up my sides. I gasped against his mouth and he took advantage, his tongue sliding against mine, and I'd never been kissed like this. Like I was oxygen and he'd been drowning. He pulled back, breathing hard, forehead against mine. "Not here," he said roughly. Not like this. You deserve better than my office desk. I don't care, I do. He cupped my face in both hands. You deserve silk sheets and champagne and someone taking their time with you, not a desperate fuck against university property. The crude words sent heat straight through me. Then take me home, I said.
To your place and take your time. Okay.
I need you to understand this is the point where my life split into before and after.
Everything changes from here. If you're not subscribed yet, do it now.
You're going to want to see the aftermath of this decision.
We didn't speak in the car.
Couldn't.
The air was too charged.
His hand found mine across the console, fingers interlacing, and that simple touch felt more intimate than anything I'd ever experienced. His penthouse was in the modern part of Milan, all glass and steel and brutal elegance. Nothing like the old world estate where Marco's party had been.
This was his space, his choice.
The
door closed behind us. For a moment we just stood there in his entryway. Are you certain? He asked quietly. Because we can stop, we can have a drink, talk, and I can take you home. No pressure, no expectation.
I looked at him.
This man who'd shown me more care in weeks than Marco had in months. This man who'd been honest about his darkness instead of pretending he didn't have any. This man who was giving me an out even though I could see it was killing him.
I'm certain, I said.
More certain than I've ever been about anything. He pulled me to him. Kissed me slower this time. Thorough. Like he was memorizing the taste of me. Then he led me to his bedroom.
Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the sea.
A massive bed with charcoal sheets.
Everything clean, masculine, controlled.
He poured us wine.
We didn't drink it.
I need to tell you something, I said.
Anything. I'm a virgin.
He went completely still.
Set down his glass with careful precision.
Isabella.
His voice was strained. That's not something you give to a man like me. It's not yours to decide, I said firmly. It's mine to give, and I'm giving it to you, because I don't want pretty lies and fake promises. I want real. I want honest. I want someone who sees all of me and doesn't flinch, and that's you. He closed his eyes.
Do you have any idea what you do to me?
Show me. He crossed to me, kissed me with a reverence that made my throat tight. Then he undressed me slowly, each piece of clothing removed like unwrapping something precious. When I was bare before him, he just looked at me.
Really looked.
You're so fucking beautiful, he whispered. And I don't deserve you, but I'm too selfish to walk away. Good, I said.
Because I don't want you to.
He undressed. And I saw all of him, the scars, the stories written on his skin.
Bullet wounds.
Knife marks. The physical proof of the violence he'd survived. I traced each scar with my fingers. He watched me, jaw clenched. Does it scare you? He asked. Seeing what I've been? No, I said honestly. It makes me grateful you survived, that all of this. I pressed my palm over a scar near his heart. Led you to me. He lifted me, laid me on his bed, moved over me with careful control. This will hurt, he said quietly, brushing hair from my face. At first, but I'll go slow, and if you want to stop, we stop. No questions, no judgment, okay? Okay? He kissed me, touched me,
built the need until I was trembling beneath him.
Then he positioned himself, holding my gaze. Stay with me, he said. Look at me, I want to see you. He pushed inside.
Slow, careful,
and it hurt a sharp, burning pressure that made me gasp. Breathe, he whispered, not moving. Just breathe, I've got you. He kissed my forehead, my cheeks, my mouth.
Waited.
Let my body adjust. Then he moved.
Slow, gentle.
And gradually, impossibly, the pain shifted. Became something else. Something that made me arch into him, made me grip his shoulders, made sounds escape my throat I didn't recognize. That's it, he breathed against my neck.
There you are.
He made love to me like it was an act of worship, like my pleasure was his only purpose. and when I shattered beneath him, his name on my lips, he followed with my name on his. After we lay tangled together, his hands stroking my back, my head on his chest. "No regrets?" he asked quietly.
"Not one," I said.
"You? Only that I didn't meet you sooner. Before I was broken. Before I became this."
I lifted my head. Looked at him.
"You're not broken," I said fiercely. "You're rebuilt, and that's so much stronger."
He pulled me down,
Kissed me until I forgot every doubt I'd ever had.
We fell into a rhythm.
A dangerous, intoxicating rhythm. At the university, we were Professor Duca and his student.
Professional. Appropriate.
He was harder on me than any other student, graded my papers with brutal honesty, challenged every argument I made, pushed me further than I thought I could go. If anything, he went out of his way to prove there was no favoritism.
But at night? At night I was his.
I'd go to his penthouse after my last class. He'd cook for me actual meals, teaching me Italian recipes his mother had taught him.
Pasta carbonara. Possible.
Tiramisu that melted on my tongue. We'd eat at his kitchen island, talking about art and philosophy and the thousand small things that make up a life. Then he'd take me to bed. And I learned that the control he showed the world was something he could set aside with me. That beneath the professor was a man who could be soft, vulnerable, devastatingly attentive. I learned what my body could do. What pleasure felt like when someone actually cared about giving it. What it meant to be desired not despite who I was, but because of it.
But we also just existed together.
I'd fall asleep on his couch while he graded papers. He'd read to me in Italian, his voice turning the language into music. We'd shower together, and it wasn't always sexual sometimes. It was just the intimacy of washing each other's hair, of being that comfortable with another human. He started taking me to his foundation, the one he'd built for people trying to leave organized crime. I met men and women who'd done terrible things and were trying to do better. Who'd been given second chances by someone who understood what it meant to need one.
I saw him differently there. Saw the good he was building from the ashes of who he'd been.
Saw the way people looked at him with respect, yes, but also with genuine affection. He wasn't just helping them, he was proving that redemption was possible.
"Why do you do this?"
I asked one night after we'd left. "Because someone has to believe they can change," he said quietly. "And because I needed to prove to myself that I could be more than what I was." "You already are," I said. He kissed my temple. "You make me believe that." 3 months in, I started training with Francesca. She ran a self-defense studio in the grittier part of Milan. Former Mafia enforcer, built like she could kill you with her pinky covered in scars and tattoos.
And one of Lorenzo's oldest friends.
"So you're the girl," she said when we met, looking me up and down.
The one who's got Lorenzo actually smiling again. I guess so.
Good. He deserves happiness. But if you're going to be with a man like him, if you're going to be in his world, you need to know how to protect yourself. "I'm not in danger," I said. She laughed. Sharp. "Honey, you're sleeping with an ex-crime boss who still has enemies. You're absolutely in danger. So we're going to make sure you can handle it." She taught me to fight. Not gracefully, practically. How to break a hold. Where to hit to cause maximum damage. How to use my size as an advantage instead of a weakness. Lorenzo watched sometimes, leaning against the wall of the studio. I caught him staring when I successfully flipped Francesco pride and something darker in his eyes. "You like seeing me like this," I said after catching my breath. "I like seeing you powerful," he corrected. "I like knowing that if something happens, you can handle yourself. Nothing's going to happen." His expression darkened. "In my world, Isabella, something always happens. Have you ever kept a relationship secret? Not because you're ashamed, but because you know no one would understand." That was my life for 3 months.
And it was perfect until it wasn't.
My family didn't know.
My friends didn't know.
We existed in this beautiful, isolated bubble where the outside world didn't matter. Marco kept trying to contact me. Texts, calls, showing up at my apartment. I blocked him. Changed my lock. Refused to engage. Julia tried to. Long messages about how sorry she was, how she was in therapy, how she needed to explain.
I didn't respond. Wasn't ready.
Maybe wouldn't ever be.
My parents noticed I was different, distant,
Happier but unreachable. Are you seeing someone? My mother asked during one of our rare phone calls.
Yes, I said.
What's his name? I'm not ready to talk about it yet. Isabella, after what Marco did, we just want to make sure you're being careful. I'm being careful, Mom. I promise. I wasn't lying. I was being careful. Just not in the way she meant. It happened on a Tuesday.
We'd gotten careless.
3 months of successfully hiding and we'd gotten comfortable.
Thought we were safe. I'd stayed the night at his place.
We'd woken up late, tangled together, lazy morning sex followed by coffee on his balcony. He'd kissed me goodbye at his building entrance, right there on the street. Both of us too wrapped up in each other to notice the person with a camera phone across the street. By noon, the photo was on the university gossip forum.
Professor Lorenzo Duca kissing a student.
Clearly intimate. Clearly not professional. By 1 p.m. it had spread to social media. By 2 p.m. my phone was exploding. I was in the library when it happened. Suddenly everyone was staring at me, whispering. I pulled out my phone and saw hundreds of notifications.
Tags, comments, messages,
The photo everywhere.
and the comments.
Oh God, the comments. She's fucking her professor for grades. He's a predator. She's a gold digger. He should be fired. She should be expelled. That's abuse of power. She's a slut. He's grooming her on and on and on. Strangers who knew nothing about us, about how we met, about what we were, deciding they knew everything. I called Lorenzo.
He didn't answer. He was teaching. I ran.
Back to my apartment. Locked the door. And watched my entire life implode in real time. The university sent an email. Both of us were to report to the dean's office immediately.
An investigation was being opened.
Until it concluded, we were forbidden from any contact. My parents called.
Screaming.
My mother, a professor, Isabella, what were you thinking? Do you know how this looks? My father, he's old enough to be your father. And his past due, you know what he was? I know exactly who he is, I said. Then you know this is wrong. You're throwing your life away for what? For some man who's using you? He's not using me. Then what is he doing? Because from here it looks like he's taking advantage of a young girl who doesn't know any better. I'm not a girl, I said coldly. I'm 23 years old, I'm an adult, and I love him.
Silence.
Then my mother, if you don't end this, you're not our daughter anymore.
I hung up.
Sat on my floor, surrounded by the ruins of everything, and tried to breathe. There was a knock on my door.
I opened it. Lorenzo stood there.
He looked wrecked-haired, disheveled, tie loosened, eyes haunted. I came to tell you we should end this, he said roughly. For your sake, your future, your reputation, we should end this before it destroys you. I looked at him. This man who'd shown me what it meant to be truly seen. Who'd been honest about his darkness instead of hiding it. Who'd made me feel powerful and cherished and real.
Is that what you want?
I asked.
Long silence.
No, he said hoarsely. God, no. Then stop trying to make my decisions for me, I said.
Stop trying to protect me from consequences I'm willing to face.
I knew what I was risking. I knew what this could cost. And I chose it.
Anyway, I chose you.
So unless you don't want me anymore, you're using my reputation as an excuse to stop telling me what I should do. He crossed my threshold.
Pulled me against him.
Held me like I was the only thing keeping him upright. I want you, he said into my hair. I want you so much it terrifies me. Then that's all that matters, I said.
We'll deal with the rest.
We stood there in my doorway, holding each other while the world burned around us. The university investigation took 2 weeks. They questioned everyone.
Students in Lorenzo's classes. Other professors.
The registrar's office, checking my grades, looking for any pattern of favoritism. They questioned me for 3 hours.
Did he ever make you uncomfortable?
No. Did he initiate the relationship? We both did. Did your grades improve after the relationship began?
Actually, they stayed exactly the same.
Do you feel coerced in any way?
Absolutely not.
Are you aware of his past?
Yes.
Completely. And you still chose to be with him?
Yes. I chose him.
I'd choose him again. They questioned Lorenzo separately. I don't know what he told them, but I knew he'd take full responsibility, try to frame it as his fault, his failure. When the investigation concluded, they called us both in. The dean was a tired-looking woman in her 60s who'd probably seen every scandal campus could produce. "We've completed our review," she said, looking between us. "And we found no evidence of professional misconduct. Miss Moretti's grades were earned through her own merit." Professor Duca recused himself from evaluating her final thesis. "While the relationship is highly inappropriate given the power dynamics, it does not appear to be predatory or coercive." Relief flooded through me. Then she continued.
However, the optics are disastrous. The university's reputation has been damaged.
And while we cannot force the end of a relationship between consenting adults, we strongly recommend that Professor Duca consider whether remaining on faculty serves anyone's best interests.
Translation: resign or we'll make your life hell. Lorenzo's jaw clenched.
But he nodded. "I understand. I'll submit my resignation effective end of term." "That won't be necessary," I said sharply. Both of them looked at me. "I'm withdrawing from the university, effective immediately." Isabella Lorenzo started. "I've learned more from you in 4 months than I learned in 3 years of formal education," I said. "And I'm not going to let them force you out of a job you love because of me. So I'm leaving. I'll finish my degree somewhere else. But you're staying." "Miss Moretti," the dean said carefully. "You don't have to. I'm not being coerced," I said. "I'm making a choice, my choice, and I choose him. I choose us. And I choose not to play games with an institution that would rather sacrifice good people than face uncomfortable truths." I stood, walked out. Lorenzo caught up with me in the hallway. "You can't throw away your education for me," he said. "I'm not. I'm choosing what matters, and you matter more than a degree from a school that would force you out for falling in love." He stared at me. "You're extraordinary, you know that? I learned from the best." He kissed me right there in the hallway. I didn't care who saw. 2 days later, Marco showed up. I was at Lorenzo's penthouse. I'd basically moved in at that point when the doorbell rang.
Lorenzo answered.
I heard his voice drop into something cold and dangerous. "You need to leave. I need to talk to her. She doesn't want to talk to you. That's not your decision to make, Dad." I came to the door, stood beside Lorenzo. Marco looked terrible. Dark circles.
Weight loss.
But there was rage in his eyes when he saw me. "You're really doing this," he said. "You're really fucking my father." "Don't," Lorenzo said quietly, dangerously. "Don't speak to her like that." "Why? Because you've got some delusional idea that this is real." Marco laughed. Sharp. Bitter. "She's using you to get back at me. That's all this is. You think I care about you enough to use someone to hurt you?" I said. "Marco, I don't think about you at all. I think about him. About the man who saw me as more than a trophy, who challenged me, respected me, loved me for who I actually am instead of who I pretended to be for you." "Loved you? He doesn't love you. He's incapable of it. He let his own wife die." Lorenzo moved so fast I barely saw it. 1 second Marco was standing, the next he was against the wall, Lorenzo's hand around his throat, that cold killer's expression on his face. "You will never," Lorenzo said softly, each word precise.
"Speak about Maria. You will never speak to Isabella like that.
Or exist in her space. Because if you do, if you so much as breathe wrong in her direction, I will forget I spent 15 years trying to be better than what I was. Do you understand?" Marco's eyes were wide, scared. He nodded.
Lorenzo released him.
Marco stumbled toward the door. He stopped. Looked at me. "He's a killer, Isabella. You know how many people died because of him? And you're going to just, what, marry him, have his kids, pretend that past doesn't exist?"
I met his eyes. He was a killer, past tense. He spent 15 years trying to undo the damage, trying to help people, build something good. What have you ever done, Marco? What have you ever built that wasn't bought with money you didn't earn? He's more of a man on his worst day than you'll ever be. Marco left, slammed the door behind him. Lorenzo stood rigid, breathing hard, hands clenched. I'm sorry, he said quietly. You shouldn't have seen that. Shouldn't have seen what I'm capable of. I crossed to him, took his face in my hands. I'm not afraid of who you were, I said firmly. I love who you are, and yes, I saw how dangerous you can be. I saw you protect me without hesitation. I saw you set a boundary and enforce it, and I'm grateful. You should be with someone who doesn't have that darkness. I don't want someone who doesn't have darkness. I want someone who's faced their darkness and chosen to be better anyway. That's you, Lorenzo. That's who you are. He pulled me against him, held me like I was the only good thing in his world. I love you, he said. I'm in love with you, and I'm going to marry you. Good, I whispered. Because I'm in love with you too. Here's where I need to know who's really with me. If you think I should fight for this, if you think love is worth the whole world judging you smash that like button right now. I need to know I'm not crazy for what I'm about to do. He proposed 3 days later. No grand gesture, no elaborate plan. Just us, in his kitchen at 2 a.m, eating gelato straight from the container because neither of us could sleep. Marry me, he said suddenly. I looked up. What? Marry me. I want you in my life forever, legally, publicly, permanently. I want to wake up with you every morning and fall asleep with you every night. I want to build something real with you. I want everything, Isabella. Will you marry me? I didn't hesitate. Yes. He kissed me. Soft, reverent, like I'd just given him salvation. I don't have a ring, he admitted. I don't need one. You'll have one, I promise. But first, let's just do this. Let's get married before anyone can tell us why we shouldn't. We got married a week later. City Hall. Just us, Francesca, and Alessandro Lorenzo's son from his first marriage, who'd flown in from Rome and looked at me like I'd performed a miracle. You make him happy, Alessandro said when we had a moment alone. I haven't seen him happy since my mother died. Thank you for giving him that. He makes me happy too, I said. I know, I can see it. You're good for each other. I wore a simple white slip dress. Lorenzo wore a dark suit. We stood before a bored city official and said vows that were promises, not performances. His, I will spend every day proving I deserve you. Mine, I will spend every day showing you that you do. We signed paper, exchanged rings, simple platinum bands he'd bought that morning. Kissed as husband and wife. It was perfect. My family found out via text. I sent a message to the family group chat. To Lorenzo. I'm happy. That's all you need to know. My mother called immediately. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail. Isabella, please. You're making a terrible mistake. He's too old. His past is too dark. People will always judge you. Please, come home. We can fix this. I deleted it. My father texted, if you don't end this, you're no longer our daughter. I replied, then I guess I'm not your daughter anymore. I'll be fine. I blocked their numbers. Julia showed up at the penthouse 2 days after the wedding. Lorenzo answered the door. Isabella doesn't want to see you. I know, Julia said quietly. But I need to try, please, 5 minutes. I heard from the bedroom. Came out. She looked different. Thinner. Sober. Genuinely devastated. I'm not asking for forgiveness, she said immediately. I know I don't deserve it. Maybe I never will. But I needed you to know what I did had nothing to do with you. I was drowning. I was so angry at Mom and Dad for lying about my adoption. So hurt that I felt like I didn't belong anywhere. And I lashed out in the worst possible way. You slept with my boyfriend, I said flatly. I did, and I'd take it back if I could, but I can't. So I'm in therapy. I'm sober. I'm trying to be better. And I wanted you to know that I'm sorry. Genuinely, completely sorry.
She set a small box on the table. This is a wedding gift. You don't have to open it. You don't have to forgive me, but I wanted you to have it.
She left.
I opened the box later. Inside was a photo of us as children, maybe 5 and 7 years old, sitting on a beach, arms around each other, smiling. On the back, Julia had written, "Before I broke us."
I'm sorry. Love, Jay. I put it on my nightstand.
Are you going to forgive her?
Lorenzo asked.
Eventually, I said. Not today. Maybe not for a long time, but eventually. He kissed my temple. That's more grace than most people would give. I learned it from you, I said.
5 years later.
I'm standing in my art gallery, the one I opened 3 years ago, preparing for a Caravaggio retrospective. It's late afternoon, golden light streaming through the windows, and I'm exhausted and exhilarated and completely happy. Lorenzo walks in carrying Sophia, our 3-year-old daughter, who's covered in paint and grinning like she just conquered the world.
Mama, she shrieks.
I made art. I see that, I say, kissing her paint-covered face. Did you make art on yourself or on paper? Both.
Lorenzo laughs.
That deep, genuine laugh I still love more than anything.
She's your daughter. She's our daughter, I correct. And she's perfect.
He sets her down.
She runs off to finger paint on the gallery windows while I give Lorenzo a look that says, please stop her, and he gives me a look that says, absolutely not.
This is hilarious. How's the baby? He asks, hand settling on my stomach. 6 months pregnant with our second. Active. I think we're having another artist. God help us, he says, but he's smiling.
Life isn't perfect.
We still get looks sometimes. Whispers.
People who know our story and judge it.
My parents have never met Sophia, never will their loss, not ours. Julia's been slowly rebuilding trust. She's sober 3 years now, has her own apartment, a job she loves. She's Aunt Julia to Sophia, carefully, cautiously welcomed back into the edges of our lives. It's not forgiven entirely, but it's progress. The foundation is thriving. Lorenzo's helped dozens of people leave organized crime, rebuild their lives, find second chances. He's found purpose beyond anything his old life gave him. And me?
I run my gallery. I create art.
I built something entirely my own, something that has nothing to do with being Lorenzo's wife and everything to do with being myself. But at the end of the day, we come home to each other. Tonight, after Sophia's asleep, I find Lorenzo on our terrace. He's standing at the railing, glass of wine in hand, looking at the city lights.
I join him. He pulls me against his side automatically, like breathing. What are you thinking? I ask.
That I don't deserve this, he says quietly. This life, this family, you. We've been married 5 years and you still say that, because it's still true. I turn to face him.
Take his face in my hands.
You deserve every bit of happiness you have, I say firmly.
You've earned it, you've built it, you've chosen it every single day.
Stop punishing yourself for who you used to be and accept who you are now. He leans down, kisses me soft and slow. Do you ever regret it? He asks. How it happened, the scandal, the judgment, everything you lost. Never, I say without hesitation. Not once, do you? The scandal, the pain we caused? Yes, but you, us, never. We stand in silence, the city glittering below us. They said you stole my virginity, I say. Made me sound like a victim. What would you call it? He asks. Liberation. You didn't steal anything. I gave you everything willingly, and you gave me everything back. He kisses my temple.
Holds me tighter.
I love you, he says. More than I thought I was capable of loving anything. I love you too, I whisper. I do it all again, every scandal, every judgment, every loss. For this, for you, for us. So would I, he says.
Every time. So I slept with my ex-boyfriend's father.
My professor.
An ex-mafia boss.
The man who claimed my virginity on the worst and best night of my life. The world said I was groomed, manipulated, too young to know better. They said he was predatory, corrupt, using his power. But here's what they didn't know. I was never powerless.
I chose him as much as he chose me.
And that choice, that impossible, scandalous, completely insane choice gave me the life I was always meant to have.
Is it perfect?
No.
Is it easy?
Hell no. Do I care what anyone thinks?
Not anymore. Because when you find someone who sees you really, sees you, don't let the world tell you it's wrong.
You claim it. You fight for it.
You build a life so beautiful that their judgment becomes background noise.
I'm 28 now.
A wife, a mother, a gallery owner, an artist.
I'm happy. I'm loved.
I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. And it all started the night I ran from betrayal straight into the arms of the one man I was never supposed to want.
Best decision I ever made. So, Team Isabella or Team Society? Drop a comment.
And if this story made you feel anything, anger, hope, scandal, love, hit that subscribe button. Because life is too short for boring stories.
And mine.
It's anything but boring.